Let's address your sprinkler system. Let's talk about its weak points. Should you trust it all the time? And how often should you water? Do you want a super green lush lawn? Or do you want a lawn that's just average? Or do you want your front yard to be amazing and you don't care about the backyard? Let's go through the sprinkler system, find its weaknesses, and show you how to have that green, lush lawn you want. So a lot of time as a homeowner, we just rely on our sprinkler system to do all the work for us. We turn it on, we may check it in the spring real quick, and then we're just hoping that it takes care of our lawn for the rest of the year. And things happen when it gets hot, especially around the high 80s and even in the 90s. You can see slightly right here. This is slowly starting to brown a little bit, and that's because it's not getting enough water. And so when your sprinkler system's on, it's set up, and it even looks like it's spraying certain areas, your grass is talking to you and telling you that, hey, this area is dry, even though it looks like it's getting water. So for example, this head right here is spraying. If you look here to the right, it's not too bad, but slightly browning right there. And so even though it looks like it's getting enough water, it's not. The grass is speaking to you. And so what you have to do when you set your sprinkler system up in the spring is go back and make sure the heads are working properly, every maybe couple months, even once a month is great, and check that it's spraying all the areas nicely. Now, if you see a part of your lawn, like we're going to go right here, and on the right side here, it's kind of dry. You can see how it's not doing well. It's even dying, right here. And I know this is due to a lack of water. And so I went ahead the other day and tested the sprinkler system because this was a sign to me that something's wrong. And so this head over here that sprays in this direction right here, it was plugged and full of mud, and it was not spraying on this side. So I had to adjust it and clean it out and fix it. And so in a couple weeks, this will kind of go fill in and help out with those dry spots. But when you see dry spots and you want a nice lawn, you can't just assume that the sprinkler is going to do all the heavy lifting. So I have my sprinkler system set up pretty well. As you can see here, the lawn is looking fairly good, but there's certain times when it's, again, hot, that I come out and hand water with the hose. I actually hook up the hose, do some hand watering, because the grass is speaking to me in the dry areas and telling me that, you know what? Even though you have your sprinkler system on, and even though it looks like the sprinkler head is watering that area, the grass is still dry there. And so I know after a few years that my sprinkler system is weak in certain areas. And so I go out and hand water it maybe once a week just because I know the system's not getting it all well. And that's okay with me. I mean, I could put in another head maybe or adjust it, but it only happens for a month or so in the very, very hot seasons. So that's the way I deal with it there. And this again is a spot that is a problem spot. It's not horrible, but you can see it's drying out right there. And so the last week or so, I started just hand watering this by hand and making sure that I can cover some of the areas where the sprinkler system is not covering. So really what I'm saying is that the sprinkler system is not the fix-all. It's not completely automatic. You just can't turn it on in the spring and then expect it to do its job throughout the entire season. So now let's talk a little bit about how you should set up your sprinklers from a timing perspective. And I'm going to go in and show you the clock in just a little bit, but you have these heads like this, which are called spray heads. And this is a general rule, so it doesn't apply all the time, but I like to run the spray heads for 15 minutes at a time twice a day, 3 days a week. So let me repeat that. These are the heads that pop up and just spray continuously in one spot. I like to run them about 15 minutes as a general rule. And then twice a day, 3 days a week. So early in the morning, maybe at 6:30, later at night, maybe around 7:30 at 8 for 15 minutes each time. And then 3 days a week. I like to space out the days. Now, sometimes when it's not so hot, you can go for twice a day, 2 days a week. But when it's warm like it is now in the 90s, there's no way that that's going to give you a lush green lawn. Now, again, this is a general rule. It depends on how much sun the lawn is getting at a certain time of the day, how much shade it gets. You can see this area over here gets a lot of shade throughout the day, and it's super green, so it probably needs a little less water. But that's a good starting point with these spray heads. And in a little bit, I'll show you about the other heads we use, which is the gear heads, and how I like to set those from a watering standpoint. Okay, so these are the gear heads that are different from the pop-ups. And you can see they oscillate really slow around the yard. They turn really, really slow in one direction and then slow into the other direction. We're going to take a look at this one over here. And you can see how it just sprays one area at a time, really slow. And moves, just moves in that direction, to the right, to the left, really slow. And so these are gear drive heads. They come in different forms. There's also heads that are called impulse heads that go chick, 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 chick. Same idea. It's just spraying one area and at a time and moving, unlike the pop-ups that spray all at once. Now I like to set these heads to water for 30 minutes a zone. So the other ones were 15, so this is double. 30 minutes a zone, twice a day, 3 days a week. Again, general rule, depending on sun exposure and other factors. So why these are 30 minutes is because you can see they're not spraying consistently in the same area. They're moving around, so they need to run longer to put the same amount of water down across the area that they're trying to cover there. So 30 minutes a zone for these gear heads or any type of head that's not continuously spraying the same area. 30 minutes a zone twice a day. So again, morning at 6 a.m. perhaps, and then 8 p.m. in the evening, 3 days a week. And that will give you a lush green lawn. I'm not talking about just an average lawn like this. That gives you a super, super green lawn that's like carpet. So if you don't want or need a lawn that looks like carpet, start out lower. Start twice a day for 2 days a week, for example. Now, but you want to do twice a day because the whole premise behind successful watering is to let the water sink in deep. You really want to water less often and longer. That's just how you get the roots to grow deeper. So again, I'll say that one more time. You want to water less often, but more at the time that you're watering. So the water really sinks down. And we have a lot of clay soil here, so that's why you can't run too long because it just runs off the turf and goes where you don't want it. And so that's why I like to at least water twice a day. You get that's called deep watering, and you get a real good deep watering when you do that. So again, if you don't have to have a carpet looking lawn, start out with 30 minutes a zone, 2 times a day, 2 times a week, and then bump it up from there if you need to. That's a great starting point. But you can see this lawn is really starting to come along and look super green, and that's all I'm doing. I'm watering 3 days a week, twice a day. And the lawn is looking really, really good. Let's take a look at a few things on the clock here. So I like to leave a little sticky note on the clock to show when I water, which is Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. Those are my 3 watering days. Obviously, we have the time on the clock here. And then we have our current date, which is fine. We have our days to water, which you can see here I have set up as Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. Start times are 6 a.m. And let's see, let's go to the next one. And then 8:30 p.m. in the evening. Here's the duration. You can see 15 minutes for those pop-up heads. 13, that's pretty close. And then 27 minutes. I told you 30 on the gear drives, so that's pretty close. I only have 2 zones that have the gear drives. This is a seasonal adjustment. So you can change the percentage of water you want to spray. This at 100%, you could change to 80%. You could change it to 150%. That just means it's going to, if you change it to 130%, it's going to water your times 30% longer. So that's a nice little feature. If it's going to be in the 90s for a few weeks, you can bump it up all your zones really easily by doing that. Manually run a station, manually run a program, test zones that just runs every zone for 10 minutes. So this is a basic clock. I'm going to put it back on automatic. Every clock is different. Every clock has a different way to set things. Some clocks are automated and Wi-Fi now, but that's just a quick rundown of the clock to show you my settings. So here's the sprinkler heads I had to fix yesterday that were not really watering this area very well. And you can see now that that head over there is actually spraying much better. And this head over here is spraying much better. That head over that I'm pointing to right now and showing you was really clogged up and not watering these areas here. So you can see, I imagine here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, these dry areas right here are going to get cleaned up because that head is now watering correctly there. Another thing, just a little quick tip, is that you want to watch your spray. You can see that the spray is actually hitting these wood columns right here. It's probably kind of hard to see the spray doing that, but it is hitting these wood columns. And that's not good for the wood after a while, so I'll have to tone those down, crank down on the screw on the top of the head so they don't spray as far there. So again, these are the pop-up heads, and it bears repeating. I'm going to run these for 15 minutes a zone, twice a day, 3 days a week. And you know, really water is the magic ingredient. We have so many people that call and don't like the way their lawn looks. And we're fertilizing the lawn, we're taking care of the weeds, but water is really the magic ingredient. If you want a green lawn, you gotta pay for the water, which is hard because water can be expensive, especially in some cities. But water is the magic ingredient. And so even though as a company we put down fertilizer and aeration, liquid aeration, and other products, they all need water to be pushed into the ground and to work properly. And so you can have a green, super green lawn all summer long if you're willing to cough up the dough and pay for the water. And if you don't want to do that, maybe you can spend your water money wisely and just put your budget into the front yard, which will give you your curb appeal. Or you can, you know, find certain areas of the yard that maybe your backyard here, which, you know, is where you spend your time. Maybe you put a lot more money into these zones and a lot less in maybe other areas like the side of the house that you're not going to see much. And, you know, you can keep it alive and keep it healthy, but you don't have to keep it lush green like this. So that's a way to kind of segment your water. And you have that ability with an automatic sprinkler system to dial it in certain areas, certain zones to do that. And You know, there's probably some areas of your lawn you want to look really nice. That's why you're watching this video in the first place. So maybe it's your front yard, like I say, and put your money in water, as far as water is concerned, into your front yard and do a really nice job making that front yard lush and super green. So keep that in mind when you're watering. But again, water is the magic ingredient. It costs a lot of money, but bluegrass here in particular is a water hog. But man, is it beautiful. It is just absolutely gorgeous turf. So let's review. You can't always trust your sprinkler system. If you see dry spots in your lawn, find out why. See if the head's not working correctly. Maybe your system's just weak in those areas. Go ahead and water them by hand if you need to. For proper watering, if you want a really green lawn, remember spray heads are 15 minutes a zone, twice a day, 3 days a week. And remember, twice a day is important because you want to water deep and infrequently for better root growth. If you have the gear heads, which move slowly, you want to water them, or want to use them to water twice a day, 30 minutes a zone, 3 days a week. And again, this is for a really lush green lawn. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. Until next time, remember, green lawns make you smile.